Ooh. Okay. So, I can tell you right off the bat what that hair is. I can tell you right off the bat what that hair is. There was a mouse at home in this. Alright guys, welcome back. So, the last video that I did, I talked about that, and I've been talking about it a couple of times, that I was going to do a video with the absolute most basic tools that you could use to show you guys that it could be done and the techniques to do that, and how you repair these. I mean, if you don't have $1,000 worth of tools, soldering iron and desoldering guns and everything else, if you don't have all of that, you know, to show you guys how to do this with just what you have. So, here's what's not going to be allowed. Hot air rework, not allowed. Desoldering gun, not allowed. Fancy desoldering pump, not allowed. Very sparingly am I going to use solder braid. And expensive soldering iron, not allowed. Here's what I am going to allow myself to use. Bear with me, I'm getting a little light flicker here. Dial him back just a little bit. Here's what I am going to allow myself to use. I'm going to allow myself to use, oh, and also microscope, not allowed. Sorry about me snapping, guys, if you can hear that on microphone. I've got a Walker Coonhound, and he loves to be in the kitchen. Give me just 1 second. Sorry about that. I didn't want you guys to hear me yelling at my dog. All right. Here's what I am going to allow myself to use. Very sparingly, desolder braid. And I may even, you know what? I'm going to. We're gonna not use super wick. We're gonna put that aside. We're gonna use this cheap Chinese wick here. Here's what I am gonna allow myself to use. I am gonna allow myself to use liquid flux, because you guys might have that. And I'm gonna allow myself to use isopropyl alcohol, because you guys will have that. I am not going to use my little bottle of flux remover at all. I am not going to use any fancy techniques. Now, I'm going to use this desoldering pump, because this is very reminiscent of what you guys will most likely have. Also, and I've got to go dig it out of the drawers while I don't have it on the video right now, instead of using this, and instead of using this, all right, a nice soldering iron and a nice cleaning station, I'm going to use a standard plug-in-the-wall, non-adjustable, non-temperature controlled soldering iron, which I just have to go dig out, and I'm going to use a sponge. So, I get none of the fancy advancements that a lot of people will have. I'm also going to use my trusty pocket knife, and I'm going to use my screwdrivers, but I am not going to use my power screwdriver. Not going to use that either. I am also not going to use this junky Chinese solder, because even though we are limiting ourselves, we're still going to do a good job. Let me take this guy and put him over there. He's out of the way. And what are we going to be working on? Well, this is what we're going to be working on. This is a Sega Genesis Model 2 that is caked in dirt and mud. I'm also going to be using a sink and soap and maybe bleach. And I hope that that will be enough. I am also not going to use my 87V for this particular one, this particular video. I'm only going to use my 117 which if I get to the point of using it, we'll get there. We'll talk about that then. And I'm only going to use my magnifying glass. I'm not going to use anything else. I want things that you guys would have at home. I am also not going to use my flush cutters, and that really hurts my feelings a lot. I will use my pliers. I will use a couple of pairs of my tweezers. I will not use my fancy auto close tweezers at all. Basic. If you guys might have it sticking in a drawer somewhere, then I'm going to use it. I am going to use my little technicians or little micro screwdriver set here. Everything in here is a Phillips 1 or 2, so any screwdriver you would have would work, so there's no point in going through all that. Shy of that, let's talk about this console. This is another Sega Genesis Model 2, and just off the bat, this is either a VA3 or VA4. You can tell by the metals inside. Serial number, if anybody wanted to know, is 498042935. It's not in terrible condition, other than just being filthy and looks like it was lived in a barn and was covered in dirt. It does got a particularly rough scuff right here. Other than that, I don't see anything wrong. I'm going to open this up gently, and I'm looking for bugs. I do see lots of hair inside of our cartridge port, which is going to be lots and lots and lots of fun. And when I say bugs, lots of hair. Like there's a whole beard in there. That's pretty ridiculous. Sorry. So when I say I'm looking for bugs, before I open one of these consoles, one of these older vintage consoles that I don't know the history of and hasn't been sitting on my shelf collecting dust for 5 years, I always look inside the cartridge port, and I always look inside of these ends, because what I'm looking for, well, are bugs. And when I say bugs, I don't mean the occasional odd spider. I mean roaches. Okay. The worst nightmare of a console repairman or technician, whatever we choose to call ourselves today, is roaches, a roach infestation. First off, if they're alive, they go outside until they're fumigated, number one. If they're dead, before I fully open this up on my bench, it goes straight to the sink. Well, first it goes straight outside and gets emptied, and then it goes straight to my sink and gets absolutely hosed down with every amount of cleaner that I can come up with after it's shooken out outside to remove any dead critters, dead bugs. The last thing you want is that stuff in your house or in your work area. So I can tell right off the bat, like I said, this has got a lot of hair in it. Ooh. Okay. So I can tell you right off the bat what that hair is. I can tell you right off the bat what that hair is. There was a mouse at home in this. So let me close this back up. I'm going to take this unit outside and I'll be right back. Okay, so first off, I cheated. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, I cheated because I used my vacuum cleaner, my dust buster. I probably should not have, but I did. You probably shouldn't vacuum electronics, but I did, and I would do it again. My options when I took this apart were either the vacuum or douse the whole thing in water and prolong the start of this video. Neither of those I really felt like doing. However, all of the metals and plastics are fixing to go in the sink. All of them. So give me 1 second. Let me dunk all of these in soapy water and acid, and I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. So now we've got all of that in there. So the first thing before we even do anything else is we are going to hose this board down. You know, I honestly started to just throw the whole thing, the board and all, in the soapy water, but I'm not gonna. Standard bodge wires. So this, by the way, is a Sega PCBD MD2 VA3 USA HAL version. The inside of it looks fairly clean. And when I say fairly clean, let me back up. Other than the nastiness, the inside of it does not look terrible. As far as the chips don't look all corroded, I don't see any busted capacitors. I don't see any leaky ones, but I may just not be able to tell yet. The board doesn't look terrible. This is interesting. This is a Foxconn connector. I've not seen that before. So, I guess let's just hit it with the isopropyl. So, you guys hear me talk quite a bit about on my channel. Yeah, that's probably enough. Maybe we might need more isopropyl than that. You guys hear me talk quite a bit on my channel about Sega's notoriousness for the randomness of the parts used. And I've never, like, you can tell when you open an NES, like it was built on in the factory, you know, and all the supplies came from the same place. There was no variation, you know, and when I say that, very minimal variation. The quality was all nearly identical. It wasn't like they had a team of nerds with soldering irons, you know, putting their consoles together, and were just, you know, getting whatever parts they could get their hands on. With Genesis, though, Genesis, how do you say that? With Genesis, though, what you find is a huge variation, and I mean an absolutely ridiculously huge variation in components used, in suppliers used, you know, huge variation, massive. You find, you know, this particular board, these all look like Nichicon caps, and Nichicon, these are all Nichicons, save that one. That is unbranded, or is it SME? SME. Never even fucking heard of them. Excuse my language. Just this huge variation in the parts used. And when I say the parts, I mean, like, the capacitor values were all the same. You know, I mean, these are all Motorola 6800s. You know, these are all Zilog chips. You know what I mean? They're all the same. All the same. But the connector on this one's a Foxconn. I've never seen that before in all of the Genesis size that I've worked on. I've never seen a connector branded Foxconn. Well, what if it's not an original one? Well, That's a good point. It may not be an original one. However, I have never known, I could be wrong, I've never known Foxconn to make cartridge connectors. You know, now they might, but at this point, Foxconn's busy making, you know, and has for the last several years been making smartphones, tablets, and laptops. You know, they don't have time for Sega. You know, and I doubt very seriously. Sorry, I'm just going to continue to scrub and apply. This is one reason, by the way, that I love these dishwasher silicone, dish silicone things, is because as I scrub and all this stuff runs off on the board, it stays here and it doesn't get on my main map. At any rate, sorry, you know, when I doubt Foxconn anymore. You know, I doubt that they have an arm, a branch of their factory pumping out Sega Genesis cartridge connectors. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. We're just gonna, I mean, I'm just, you know what? The dirtiness of this. It's not even that this was particularly dirty, by the way. It was very dusty. But I think you guys, you know, saw the hair when I opened it up, and when I took it outside, it was no better. It really was no better at all. There was just, I want to say, maybe it was a dog, maybe it was the pet gerbil. I don't know. I don't know what it was. But something had been in here. Thank God, I will say this, that it wasn't roaches, because of all the things that I have to clean up after, roaches are the worst. I tell you, you know what's funny? The consoles that I get that tend to have the most roach infestations or whatever, and this is the strangest thing to me, are original first-gen Xboxes. It never fails. It never fails. It seems like every one that I pick up has been just in the nastiest environment in the world, stuck out in a barn or in somebody's house that doesn't care for their things, doesn't care for anything, and they're covered in roach droppings and things everywhere. They're terrible, man. I don't understand it. Anyway, false over all that. And so even though, so if you guys will remember, and go back and watch the other video. If you guys will remember, I'm going to bring this camera down just a little bit so you guys can hopefully see a little bit more about what I'm doing here. If you guys remember the other video, the previous one that I did about a Sega Genesis, it was a VA3, and the components, as far as the chip, you know, the processor and things like that, were similar. The caps were different. The cartridge connector was not a Foxconn. If you remember, the wires we pulled off the back were different. They were blue, I think, or I think they were blue. I think I threw them away, but I'm pretty sure they were blue. And if you remember looking at that board, some of the soldering around the edges was not complete. Like Sega, the best I can figure out is they had 400 factories making these things, pumping these out. Whether it was a lowest bidder type of thing, I don't know. I really don't. What I do know is that the vast discrepancy that I see in Sega Genesis boards is baffling. They all work the same, and as far as the layout of the boards, as far as the traces, as far as where they go, a VA3 is a VA3 is a VA3 is a VA3, and that's all pretty standard. However, However, it is clear and apparent that these were that VA3 and this one did not come out of the same factory. And here's the interesting thing, right? So, not to be racially insensitive in any way, but the Japanese are known for their legendary quality and attention to detail. Legendary. Sega is a Japanese company. And Sega, it is stunning to me that a Japanese company allowed, tolerated, and sold and accepted this. It is stunning to me, the amount of difference between what you see from board to board, even of the same generation, even of the same variation, the same model, the same VA3 to VA3. You would expect them to all be the same, with identical or near identical components. But if you look at things like the EM filters here and up here, completely different. Completely different than what we saw in our last one. Completely. And it baffles me that Sega, that went on. Sega being a Japanese company, and again, I'm not trying to be racially insensitive. If anything, I'm trying to pay a compliment to Japanese people and the way that they go about building things. Again, when it comes to quality control, listen, they're the best in the world, and have always been, their attention to detail and the quality control that they put in, and everything must be precise and everything must be perfect and very efficient, is known worldwide. Everything they do, even today, the cars they build, the electronics they make, everything, it's got to be just so. And even you look at like a Nintendo Switch today, you open up a Switch, and even though I'm sure they're built, Nintendo's not pumping them out on their, in their main factory in Tokyo anymore. I'm sure perhaps Foxconn's building the things. I don't know. I haven't dug into it that much. I do like my Switch, but I just haven't dug into it as far as where they're made and all of that. Here's what I can tell you. I have actually opened my Switch up. I wanted to put a clear housing on it, and again, other than Nintendo's, we use 473,000 different screws for everything we do. Other than that, the thing was stunningly well put together. Stunningly well put together. Shockingly well put together. Which, again, goes and speaks volumes, to them. Let me grab one more paper towel. See, this is why I keep all these paper towels around. Some of you guys look at my videos and you go, why does this nut job keep all these paper towels around? This is why. This is why. Okay. So, I think that we have mostly cleaned the nasty off of that board. At least I feel like I've doused it with isopropyl enough. We still got some gunks here or there. Nothing major. It's a million times. I at least feel safe working on this board. I feel safe now touching it. I don't feel like I will contract some rare disease. I don't feel like I will. The hantavirus or something like that. I don't feel like I'll contract that by touching this board now. So, let's see what we want to start with first. So I think the first thing that I'm going to start with, now that we've got him clean, is I'm going to do a rough, quick inspection to see, and I just want to look and see if I can find any broken traces that I'm going to have to repair. I see some dark spots on the board. I don't think that's anything, but I'm going to look at it under my magnifying glass. I'm going to check it out. Honestly, I said that. I may not even, because this thing looks pretty stinking good. Other than some, what is now paper towel fibers everywhere. It looks pretty stinking good. Again, this is not the cleanest board that I've ever had. But I feel pretty good about it. I'm a little bit concerned with our cartridge connector, and so I'm gonna gunk down, still down in there. More gunk still down in there. I will never, ever, ever, ever get all of this gunk out of here. Ever. I'll never get it all out. It's not possible. That may sound more abrasive, by the way, on camera than it actually is. So these are kind of rounded on the outside, and all I'm doing is going down to the bottom and sliding. And it has to move the pins out of the way. And I'm just trying to get every bit of gunk out of that cartridge connector I can. Though I'm going to be honest, I don't think there's anything I can do that will ever get it all out. Doesn't mean we're not going to try, though. We're going to try. We're going to give it our best. So far, I'm not seeing anything other than a cleanup that would necessarily prevent this console from working. If my head is in the camera, I'm sorry. You know, honestly, that has come out surprisingly clean. Surprisingly clean. Oh. You guys bear with me. I'm having some pretty bad allergies going on. It's been pretty rough around here lately in my neck of the woods. So my allergies are kicking my tail pretty good, and my face hurts pretty bad. Like I said, other than that right there, I'm looking around at this cartridge, and you never do know. You never do know. We're gonna find out, though. We're gonna I'm probably just gonna throw power to it and see what comes of it. So here's what's interesting. Normally, and if you remember the last that we did, this clock capacitor right here is this huge square, right? The clock oscillator is this huge square, and it's that really weird, is it 53 point, is it 53? Let's see. Yeah, 53.6931 megahertz. Normally it's this big square chip, right? But this one on this particular board is not. It's not. This integrated chip here, this IC here, is not labeled. This is Oki, that's normal. This doesn't say, but it's got a symbol, but it doesn't say what it is. It's definitely Motorola 6800. That's just labeled SEC. Choke is not labeled. It's interesting. Sorry, I like to look over my board and just note the differences that we see on these boards. That's very interesting to me. I've always been fascinated by, like I said, just the differences in the Genesis boards. And while I'm doing that, I'm looking for anything, while I'm looking over the board for differences in things, I'm looking to see any busted traces, any loose bodge wires here or there. Looking at my pin connectors, they look really good. See, that's a Nichicon cap there. All these dark blue ones they're all Nichicons. I don't see any leaking on any of these caps, other than, you know, this has always bothered me, by the way, about these the VA3 boards, is they put this capacitor here, this 220 UF microfarad capacitor, they put it at that funky angle, that weird angle right there, and that's always kind of bothered me a little bit. Like, I don't understand why they do that. Because there's room, you know. It's not like you don't have room to stand the thing up properly. 7805 looks, I mean, fine-ish. I don't see anything wrong with it. I'm kind of just glancing over, looking for broken traces, and I'm not seeing any. I don't see any reason why this console wouldn't work. I'll tell you something else I always found interesting too. So Sega, you know, they rivet in their cartridge connector, and then on their controller ports, there's 3 screws, but then they epoxy, and it's probably hard for you guys to tell, but right here, and right here, they epoxy those screws in place. So you can't even really get them out. They can be removed, but boy, is it a challenge. Yeah, I don't see any reason why this wouldn't fire up and work offhand. If I had to wager, the reason that this thing wasn't working and was listed as not working is the amount of hair that I vacuumed out of this, and the amount of nasty that was all over it. I do see one funny little mark right here on this board. I see a funny little mark there. I see, it's almost like some, I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like some water staining, but it's not bad. I don't see any broken traces anywhere. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work. See some more of that. I'll tell you what. Let me round up a Genesis cartridge, and let's see if we can turn them on. See what happens. Oh my God! I don't even know what that is. Ooh. because I've got a Genesis power pack over here. I don't know that I've got a Genesis cable. You know what I do? I do have a Genesis cable over here on the floor. Let's plug him up. Should we make sure it's for a Model 2? No, we don't want to do that. Wing it. Wing it. It can only melt down once. Well, it plugs in, so it's got to be right. No, in all seriousness, guys, I just happen to know that's for a Model 2. Always double check. Now, I will tell you this. If you guys remember the Nightmare Genesis video I did, the one that just beat my tail up pretty bad, the one thing that I did not do was check the video cable, and I don't know what I did with that video cable, and it is entirely possible that this is that video cable. So let's see. We'll find out, right? Let's you know what? Let's go with the old standby Sonic. Let's go with the old standby Sonic the Hedgehog. One of these days, this cartridge here is not going to work or is going to break on me. I'm going to be really depressed because I've had it for years. Let's see. I'll turn my little monitor on. Well, we got a red light. That's good. Well, we got video. And we have audio. And we have a clear picture. Well, I can see on... yeah, you guys need to see this. Let me turn this volume down and pan the camera and restart this. So, let me tell you what you're looking for, okay? This is how you know some of the capacitors on this particular board are bad. Let me stand that up and move him out of the way. So, let me turn him off. So what you're looking for on this is down in the bottom of the screen, right? So when I point to the when I pan around and show you the screen, I'm gonna point to it with my tweezers. What you want to look for is some cross pixelation, and then in some other parts of the screen you're going to see the same thing. I'll try to point to it with my tweezers real quick while it's happening. You guys need to see this because this tells us something, right? This is very interesting in what it tells us about this. So let me pan the camera down here and get us on screen here, okay? We're going to turn him on. Start watching right down here in this corner, okay? So he's going to come up. You see this right here? Did you see it? Here it comes. There it was again. You can just faintly see it right here in this corner, okay? Now look at the blurry. Look at the blurry in this. Look right down here. You see this? Okay? Now watch when this comes up and switches over. You see the shaking? Okay? You can see it in the background too. It's like a shimmer. Alright? And you see how everything just looks a little distorted? Like the see-through trees, that's kind of normal, right? That's kind of all normal. Let me reset it. Does our reset button work? No. Our reset button doesn't work. We'll turn them off, turn it back on. Watch again. Look down here in this corner. Look down here in this corner. Okay, this is right here is what you want to be looking for. Right down here. I hope you saw it. It's going to come up again in a second. There it is. A little faint one. And here comes some more. You see this? This banding, this shimmering right down here on this edge. Okay? And see the... You see how that's not crisp? Look, there it is right there. See the shake in those letters? That's there for a reason, okay? Here's what that tells us, okay? Here's what that tells us, all right? First off, I am shocked. So the console works, all right? So let's go ahead and just say that now. The console does indeed work. It does turn on, which is a good thing, a very good thing for us, okay? That's great news. What that means is that whatever gerbil, you know, they called him on South Park, Lily Pants or whatever it was, I don't remember. Whatever critter used to be alive inside of this console, okay, that's what caused this console to not be working. What caused this console to not be functional was the cartridge port was absolutely filthy. Now, what is causing that shimmering, that funny banding? Okay, here's what's causing that. So, as you travel around your board, you have a couple of specific areas that you need to watch out for. So this 220 UF capacitor is the power capacitor for the 7805. We can test the 7805 and find out if it's putting out proper power. The first thing that we want to start looking for, though, is these capacitors right here. These are audio capacitors. This whole area right here is. This is our audio area, okay? And the audio's fine. I didn't hear anything wrong with the audio, okay? Nothing at all, okay? This is our video area, okay? And these capacitors right up here, if I had to wager, would do us some serious good to change these out. Now, the EM filters are fine, okay? Those guys are fine. If I had to wager, these capacitors right here are our cause, or one of these three, okay? All of this down here is probably going to be fine. All of these are fine. Now, how are we going to go about doing this, okay? So we've got a couple of options. We can pretend like this is your console at home, right? And we can just change these out and make them run properly. Or we can change all of these out. Now, if this is your console at home, guys, okay, you are free to do whatever it is that you want to do with your console. If you only want to change these out one at a time until that goes away, you can do that. All right? You can. If you only want to change out literally one at a time, check the result, one at a time, check the result, this is your console. You can do that. Okay? I can't do that. I can't do that because I'm going to sell this. This console, other than being dirty, other than you know, having some debris and stuff in it, there's nothing wrong with this console, and somebody will give this guy a good home and will take care of him and love him, you know, and somebody will get to play Toe Jam and Earl on it, right? So I can't do that, but you can, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this video for the night. I'm going to go get me a good night's sleep. I'm going to round up my really cheap soldering iron because I told you what parts we were going to use, and I've stuck to that thus far, and that's what we're going to do. The only part that I cheated on was the thing. I'm also this reset switch does not work, and I said in one video I was going to show you how to fix that. I'm going to actually have to show you how to fix that. You can't get this reset switch anymore. There's a carbon trace in here. Well, there's not. Let me back up. There's not a carbon trace in here. There's a carbon trace on top of the little rubber hat. Okay, but down below, if you guys remember the Atari video, and I pulled the controller apart, and there were just two big copper pads, and that little carbon in here touched them. It's the same thing here. The problem is those two copper traces right there. Okay, they were unprotected. They are unprotected. And they've oxidized. I can rub and scrub and everything else, and I'll get it occasionally to work, maybe occasionally to work, or I can just change the whole thing out. You guys should probably need to see how to change one of those out because you cannot replace it with this, but if you are inventive and you have a tiny little screw, you can replace it with it's a clicky switch. But it's a switch, okay? It clicks instead of has a soft press. It's not factory original, but it's about as close as you can get, and it really won't hurt anything. Anyway, glossing over all of that. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to, once I round up my other cheap soldering iron, I am going to replace one or of these capacitors at a time, using only the tools that I agreed to use, and until we get that fixed, until we get that glitchiness fixed on the screen, one at a time, until we get that, okay? And then, and we'll put it in and test, and we'll go back and forth, so I'll show you kind of how you do that. And then, once we do that, okay, once we get that done, then I will high speed, I'll go kick into high speed, and I'm going to replace all of these. I'm going to still, even when I replace all these, I'm going to stick to my rules. Okay, I'm going to stick to the rules and stick to fair, what I agreed on, and only use this thing, which is going to really be terrible for me. But I'm only going to do that and my non-temperature controlled soldering iron, which again is going to be terrible for me. I'm pretty much going to hate life, but I agreed to do it, and so I'm going to do it. I'm probably going to, and when I say probably, I have to replace this 7805, and I have to because, again, I'm going to sell this, and you guys are going to spend your hard-earned money on it, and I want you to get something that's going to last forever. Once this gets to your house, if you guys buy one of these on Amazon, or I say Amazon, on eBay or Craigslist or wherever, the flea market, and you get it home, I want you to know what you have to do to get it working, and I want you to know what you have to do to get the best quality of picture out of it. That's what I want you guys to take away from this video, is how to clean one up and how to use the basicest of tools to do this job. So, at any rate, I'm going to let this video stand where it is for tonight. Give me a good night's sleep. Go to work tomorrow. We'll come back tomorrow with the proper soldering iron that I've got. And I say the proper soldering iron. I don't get to use the nice one because I agreed I wouldn't. And we are going to pull this guy apart. It's going to take a while. This video is probably going to be pretty long because desoldering with one of these is a process. It really is. It's a challenge. It can be done, and we're going to do it with this, but it is not easy, and using the tools that we're going to use are again, not easy, but never mind all that. So that's where we're going to be for tonight. I'm going to leave this video here, and then, like I said, I'll be back, and we will get this guy wrapped up, cleaned up, and made to look good, okay? Because this video, like I said, this console already works. All we've got to do is just fine-tune a few things, right? And fix a little bit of video, and this will be a good console to last forever. I have to replace the caps anyway, but you guys wouldn't have to. So I'm going to show you what you would have to do to get it working perfectly for you, okay? So I guess I'll see you guys tomorrow afternoon. Thanks. Okay, guys. Welcome back. Good night's sleep, went to work and all that good stuff. And while I was at work, I picked up out of my toolbox my Weller. I think I paid $20 for this thing at Lowe's. This is the soldering iron I'll be using. That was what I agreed to, probably foolishly, but it's what I agreed to nonetheless. So this is what we're going to be using today. I have not used this thing in a long time. I do not know offhand what temperature it gets to, but if I had to guess, I'd say not hot. It is a very, very, very blunt tip. It is just a conical, round, blunt tip. We're going to see what we can make it do. So, if you guys remember, and I have unplugged my soldering iron, by the way, I will be using my soldering iron stand for this guy. But when you see me use a soldering iron, it will be this Weller. Not real happy about it. We're going to get through it. Sorry, I'm plugging up my screwdriver over here so it can charge, even though we're not going to be using it for this video. I've got to tin this Weller. You know, yeah, it's starting to get warm-ish. I do have my extraction fan going because I know I used this at one point at work. I needed it for something, but I don't think I've ever even tinned the tip properly. So we're going to do that for sure. Getting back into it. So where were we? We had determined that the power jack's good, that the AV jack is good, that the console works. We cleaned out all the gunk. I still have the plastics over in the sink, and they are still soaking. Probably not with enough bleach to be. I didn't use bleach. I say I used bleach. I didn't use acid. Probably would have worked because this thing was pretty gunky. I got to thinking about it today at work and kind of talking with some of my guys about it, and I mentioned, that there was all the hair and the stuff, and it looked like there's a mouse, and some of them brought up, how would a mouse even get in there? Because even though there's some little slits and slats in it, it's not really big enough, and the console connector, the console cover, does go down pretty snug, so there's not, I don't know what that was or where it came from. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I really don't. Yeah, this thing's not even, melting solder yet. Oh, there we go. We're starting to get some. This tip is probably going to take some work. I do not have another tip for this. This is the only one I have. I kind of wish I had another one, but I don't. So we're gonna have to force this one to work. Like, it's getting hot enough, but the solder's running off of the tip, so clearly it's not tinned at all. That is a bit of a problem. We're going to try to correct. If this doesn't work, I will show you one more tip. So what happens is these tips, and not all of them, not all tips, but not all tips are created equally. There we go. We're starting to get some there sticking to us. The tip is an iron core, some sort of an iron core, and then it's got a copper plating on top of it. And the copper plating, if it gets etched and worn off, it is nearly impossible to replace. First off, you can't get it back on there. See, on this side, we're barely even. This thing just does not want to hold temperature at all. So getting that, yeah, we've lost all of our temperature. Well, I said that. We're starting to get some here. We're starting to get some there, a little bit. I tell you what, I'm going to pause this video, and I'm going to get this tip good and tinned, and we'll come back to it once our tip functions, because this could take 10 minutes, this could take an hour, and you guys are not going to hang out for an hour and watch this, just me getting this tip to where it'll work, to where it will heat up solder and hold solder on it. So give me a few minutes, let me see what I can do with this, and I'll resume the video once I get the tip good and ready to go. Alright guys, sorry about that. So I ended up having to make a decision, and it was good. It was one of those decisions where it was either going to work out and everything was going to be great, or it was not going to work out and I was going to have to cancel the video because I didn't have a soldering iron. I ended up having to apply some, and I say apply some, rub the tip of that Weller soldering iron against some 2000 grit sandpaper, and have been fighting with it to tin up for probably 25 minutes now, but I think we got it to where it's going to work. So the first thing we're going to do, and remember our goal here is to fix the picture and video problem that we've got, that little bit of that little glitter, that little stutter that's going on there. That's our primary goal, because if you guys were at home are trying to do this, that's what your goal is too. So to do that, we're going to start with these capacitors right back here, and I'm going to round them up. We've got a 4710, We've got a 226.3, and those are 110s. So let me go over here to my box of things as soon as I can find out where I put them. We need a 47 microfarad 10 UF, or 47 microfarad 10 volt, correction. That's going to be that guy right there. We need two 100 10 volts. Looks like it's going to be two 116 volts. We need a 220 6.3 volt. We need a 10 UF16. And we are going to need this big guy right here. Is a 220 as well. It's a 16. We're going to put a 25 in. Okay, so that's going to get those capacitors. And again, we're going to go back and change all of these out once we're done. But I just kind of wanted to make the video and show you guys how you can do it. So there's a couple of different ways you can go about this. You can use a solder sucker on the bottom of the board, and we're going to start with that method and go for there. Now, normally I would take my flush cutters and I would bend these up. But remember, I said that I wasn't going to use my flush cutters, which was probably a mistake. So since we can't use those, what we are going to do is we're going to take and heat this up a little bit and get our solder sucker ready. I said I would use and could use my little pliers. So we're going to do that. We're definitely going to do that. And here's what we're going to do. Right off the bat, we're going to put some fresh solder on this, and that should make it a little bit easier for us to work with. Tell you one thing's for sure, I can definitely tell with this soldering iron, it does not like heat to be pulled away from it. It does not like to do any work, because the second you try, you pull heat straight away from it, and it does not like that, not one little bit. It cools off near instantaneously. Because this tip was in such bad shape, for the next little bit, I'm going to really be working on keeping it good and tinned. And hopefully, with any luck, that will make everything a little bit easier to work with. So, oh no, that's no good. So I went to pull that back and I realized the tip of the desoldering pump was still sticking out, which may mean that this cheap thing here is broken. Let's find out. Oh, that's in bad shape. Oh, that's in terrible shape. So our little pusher pin is falling out. This little pusher pin here is what pushes the solder back out once you clean it. Yeah. Yeah. I think my little desoldering pump here, this little cheap one's dead. So, I don't really know what to do about that because I can't complete the video at that point without cheating. And since we said we weren't going to do that, it leaves me with very little choice here but to break out my other one. My much nicer, more expensive hand pump. That is no good. This is another reason, by the way, why I say maybe. All right, soldiering on. It's another reason why I say, there are some things absolutely, save yourself a couple of bucks on, no reason not to. This is another one of those reasons why, I say, buy decent equipment. Because we are probably going to spend more time fighting with this desoldering pump. Yeah, it's jammed at this point. I can't even... Broken. Okay. I'm getting my other one out. We'll just do it with this cheap soldering iron. And a real pump. I'm sorry. I had every intention of using the cheap desoldering pump, but it's broken, and that's another reason. Like I said, I say you can buy this cheap junk, but don't. I mean, at this point, it won't push out. It's jammed, so I'm not going to fool with it anymore. Not even going to fool with it anymore. So what you've got, you guys are not going to be able to see this, because again, remember, I'm not going to be using the microscope either, is this leg, let me find one. This is a perfect example. So this leg, okay, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to make that out on the board. What it has done is bent a hard 90 degrees, like this leg right here, over the board, and there's solder under it sticking it. So what I'm going to have to do, or what you would have to do, is heat it up enough to where you can bend that and pull him back off of the board without overheating the board, without damaging the board. because we don't have any cutters. Remember, we don't have any cutters that we can nip this guy or get in there with to bend and pry with. So we're having to do the very best we can and go nice and slow. And unfortunately, our soldering iron here just does not have the thermal mass it needs I think we got it. Yep, got it. Oh no. Well, that took about 3 years off my life. Let me see if I can get something where you guys can see this. See these legs and how they were bent. I don't know if you guys can make that out in the video or not. How they were bent at these hard 90 degrees over the edge. That right there, that's why it wouldn't come out. And all of these, by the way, are going to be like that. So, fun times. Lots of fun times. This is going to be great. I'm going to be so thankful by the end of this to just be done with this video. But you know, the thing that I want you guys to learn is, you know, am I using tools that you don't have access to? Ish. A little bit, I guess. Not really, because you guys can get a desoldering hand pump. Okay, that guy was a 47 UF 10 volt. Now what you're looking for on the board is, this is where this capacitor goes, and there's a tiny little plus mark up here. Plus mark with our electrolytic capacitors, because they are polarized. Plus is always denoted with a positive, and on the capacitor itself, negative is always denoted with a different color stripe than the rest of the casing. So this whole plastic wrap is black. This little white stripe is our negative. So if you make sure you're going that way, you'll be in good shape. That technique seemed to work pretty well right there. So what I did is I stuck my finger on the capacitor I wanted to move, and I wiggled as I heated up. And then once I got him heated up enough, I could pull him with my finger away from the board, and that allowed me to free that stuck leg. So that seemed to work well, and it worked again. Great. So that may be the technique that we use on all of these. Before we go pulling them out, I'm going to straighten the legs out. You guys try to do that. Try to straighten the legs out as much as you can. It makes removal a lot easier. And it's less chance of damaging the actual board. So this guy is our 10 microfarad 16 volts. No, that's 100. We don't want him. We probably want this guy here. Let's see here. Yep. 10 UF25. And again, we're going to look for our positive, look for our plus mark. Okay. Row. That'll work. That was a lot of solder in there. Yeah, this guy is going to struggle. This iron is going to struggle with large ground planes like what was on that. It's really not going to like it. And yours won't either. Can you do it the way I'm doing it? Yes, we're doing it. We're going to do it. We're going to do it the whole way. We're going to do all of them. Will your life be significantly easier if you choose to maybe do it a different way? Yes. Yes, it will. So if you guys will notice, I'm just kind of alternating back and forth a little bit here. Going slow. I'm not trying to remove the whole board in one. I'm not trying to remove the whole capacitor in one shot. I'm just trying to take my time and not damage my board. Okay, he's pretty free, so he should wiggle out. There we go. I don't know if you guys can see that on there, but he's got a nasty little hook in him, and that's why he was so stuck. And this is our 220 UF 16 volt. It should be this big guy right here. Yep. We're going to pay attention again to our positive. We're going to find him, make sure our capacitor goes in the right direction. Now you guys notice right now I'm not going through the trouble of soldering these legs. I'm just folding them over out of the way. That's what I want you to be doing. We will solder these. We'll solder these one at a time or all as a group because we're replacing them all as a group. And remember, guys, the trick with this stuff is to not force anything. Take your time. Look at what the component needs to come out, and do that. Find a way to do that. That's a 6.3 volt 220. This is going to be this bigger guy right here. You want to pay real close attention. Use your eyes and your patience, and find out what is going to work. Spend a little just looking at it, using a little bit of heat, moving things around just a little bit at a time, and finding out what is going to work to free the component. You don't want to put any unnecessary stress on the component, on the board. That is how you end up breaking a board. That's how you end up sliding your tip across and breaking off a resistor, a little S&D resistor or something like that, is by trying to force something out. That's how you end up destroying it. That's how you end up with a console sitting on your shelf that doesn't work. That's how you end up, being upset and sending it in and paying a technician, $100 or $200, whatever it is, to fix your console for you. That's how you end up doing that, by being in a hurry or being aggravated. Even though I've got, I don't know, the better part of $1,000 worth of equipment sitting over there, I'm not in a hurry. Even though it is killing me to have to endure this ridiculous feat that I put this on myself. I'm still going to take my time. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to do it right. I'm going to go slow. I'm going to use what tools I have to my advantage and get the job done. So, that really, in the grand scheme of things, guys, that didn't take all that long. We replaced all of the capacitors right up here that should have anything to do with our audio or video. And when I say replace them, we're going to go solder them in right now. But we got them all out. We didn't damage our board. We didn't tear any traces. We didn't tear anything up. And we did it with this cheap $15 Weller soldering iron, and we're gonna take a close look when we're all done, and I'm gonna show you what it looks like, what the quality is. Show you that it can be done, and that the quality of job you can do can look good. Now, could I do this faster with my equipment? Oh, absolutely I could. Could I do a better job? Probably a little bit better of a job. But the trick to that, the thing with that is, while I could do a better job, have I done a bad job? No. Would I be embarrassed of this job? No, because if I was, I wouldn't put it on. I wouldn't put it on YouTube, which is where it's going. I wouldn't let you guys see it. I wouldn't do this. So now we have encountered one small problem. I don't have flush cutters, so apparently I don't even have cutters. Okay. Well, I can't leave that long, that's for sure. Because that ain't never going to work. That is 1.5 miles long, and that's going to be terrible. Okay. Really like to use my flush cutters right now, but I'm not gonna. Tell you what, let me go find a tool real quick. I'm gonna leave this board sitting right here. Let me go find a tool real quick, something, even if it's a pair of scissors, that I can make this work with, and I'll be right back. Haha! I have found it. Okay, they're cuticle removers for your fingernails, but they'll work. There were no fingernail clippers, period, would work. These are cuticle removers. They will also work great. So we're going to use these since I don't have flush cutters. Oh, I said they were going to work. Yeah, they'll work. So I tried to, it took me a few minutes, probably 10 minutes, 15 minutes wandering around the house, trying to think of what tool I could get that you guys would also have access to sitting at your house that you didn't have to buy that would do this task. Fingernail clippers will work, by the way. This is just what I had handy that I found, the first thing I came across. The wife will probably kill me, but whatever. And these will work a gem. I really was hoping to find a pair of fingernail clippers. You ever notice you can never find a pair when you need them? You never can. Voila. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go and retouch these joints, every one of them, so that our joints look nice and pretty. And then we're going to clean this board. We're starting to get a really nice tin tip on this. Soldering iron's actually starting to do its job. How about that? It's amazing. Again, I could be using flux remover right now, but I'm not. I'm using isopropyl because it's what I have. And it's what you guys will have. And being fair across the board, I agreed to not use flux remover. So I'm using isopropyl because it's what I have. I am just inspecting now all of my joints and making sure I didn't leave anything behind, I didn't tear up any traces, nothing like that. I'm going to get my magnifying glass. I am pretty happy with that. I have no complaints with that at all. I tell you what I am going to do. I'm going to show you guys. Let me pull the microscope over here. I want you guys to see. I want you to see what we did, how we came out. Not using it to do the work, using it so you guys can get a look at how we did. That's about as zoomed out as I can get. So this was the first one we replaced. Sorry, instead of using my fat finger, let me use a pair of tweezers here. So these two right here were the first ones we did. Then we came over and we did, let me find them. Just give me a second. I'll find it. We did this guy right here and his other leg. And then we did this guy right here and his other leg. And we did this guy right here and his other leg. And we did this guy right here and his other leg. So we replaced those capacitors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those 6 capacitors right there. And the quality of the job looks pretty good. Now, is it the absolute best? No. Is it absolutely 100% acceptable for your at-home job? Yes. Yes, again, if this is your console, it's your house, absolutely acceptable. It's fine. Work absolutely great. What we're going to do, let me plug up my power cord. Find my end, wherever he went off to. He's vanished. Find my video cable, wherever I put him. Probably threw him in the floor somewhere last night. Let's see. I think no, that's not him. Okay. There we go. Find our video cord. Plug him in. And let's get Sonic the Hedgehog. Oh, he's already on. That's brilliant. And let's see if we have fixed the problem. Okay, we've got a much crisper picture now. Still getting a slight flutter in a few places. Okay, I'm going to pan this camera down and let you guys take a look at it and see how we did. Give me 1 second. Someone's knocking on my door. Okay, sorry about that. That's somebody knocking on my door. Just so we can confirm. Same console, same setup. And let's power him on. See how we look. No more problems. Turn our volume up. Picture and everything seems to be restored. Everything looks great. No more silly flickering. Running a little bit better. Great. Okay. Cool. So, we got a couple more things to do. Remember I said our reset button wasn't working? Well, I said it wasn't. Maybe it is. No. No, we have no reset. No problem. So let me get this unhooked. And we're going to replace our reset button. So we've got to get him replaced or we are nowhere. So, how do we replace him? Well, the first thing we need is we need to identify where he is on the board. So he is all the way over here, and he's this big, huge 4-point switch here, and it's a flat switch. So we're going to go into our little tub of switches. Those might work. Just taking a look around, seeing what else I have. What else I have in here that I could kind of press into service. These are the ones that I usually use. Here's another one down here. These might work as well. You know what? That might be the one I go with. Maybe. We're going to do a size comparison. So you can buy these little push button switches on Amazon, and you can get it for cheap. And a switch is a switch is a switch is a switch. As long as it works, that's what we care about. We're going to have to do a slight modification to our case. We're going to get one of these guys out, and we're going to get one of the other guys out, and we're going to do a little bit of a comparison, because right off the cuff, what I can tell you is that these ones right here with these red buttons are a lot flatter. Now they're a little bit bigger around, a little bit more square. Well, I said that. They're probably pretty close to the same. This black one is probably what we're going to go with. I think I like him a little bit better footprint-wise. Footprint-wise, I'm just going to line them up and see. Yeah, that's not bad. So we know what that is. We know what that one is. Let's turn our board over and look at our height. So what we're trying to do is match the top of our button here as close as we can get it. And I can tell you, the red one is really, really, really low. The black one is going to be a little bit better, and so that's probably going to be the guy that we're going to end up going with. Yep, that's the one right there. Okay, so here's the magical thing about the switch. It makes no difference whatsoever which way you put him on. None. This is not a directional switch. This is not anything special. This is just a switch, and it will not matter which way he goes on. Now, the first thing that we're going to have to do, because this is going to be a challenge, these are huge, huge solder points to go to. The very first thing that we're going to have to do is apply some more solder, and that sounds counterproductive, but the best way to remove old solder is to put fresh, clean, new solder on. So we're going to start there. Just like that. Okay. We get our solder sucker ready. Our little hand pump. You can expect when you're doing a joint this large, a solder joint this large, for it to take a couple of pumps at best to relieve him of solder. Best case scenario, a couple. This is one of those things where it's best to not be in any hurry because you're going to be here for a minute. I'm going to re-tin our tip. We're starting to get a little lacking in our ability to heat solder up. So we've removed all of that solder, and I say all of it. We have not removed all of the solder. What I'm going to do is just use my fingernail, and I'm just trying to push the tabs around and see if any of them are free yet. This one is definitely free, so he's ready to come out. These other ones are not, but what we can do I'll tell you what. I have run out of cord. Soldering iron here. Being plugged into the wall kind of is a challenge. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm just heating up and pushing a little bit. There we go. Now, we're going to take our little pliers again. And we're just going to give these a little wiggle. We're not trying to squeeze or break. We're just giving them a little wiggle to see if they're free or not. We're going to look under a magnifying glass and see that one. Not quite free yet. Okay. That now felt free. I watched him let go. What I'm doing here is I'm just applying a little bit of pressure down. And I'm just checking. This one over here is not quite free yet. There we go. There we go. All I'm doing again is I'm just putting a little bit of pressure down with the nose, the very nose, just a slight bit of pressure. Okay, I'm not trying to force it. I'm not trying to break anything. We're just a slight bit of pressure. He's still not wanting to come. That's okay. If you just use your fingernail and a little bit of pressure, and you just wiggle him a little bit every now and again, you'll be able to see the moment that he actually is free, completely free, and can be pushed out. Okay? Again, we're just going to take our time. We're not in any big rush. And we're going to wiggle him and wiggle him. We're not breaking him. We're not ripping. We're not pulling. Anything like that. We're just a little wiggle. And he'll come right out. There you go. There you go. Just like that. Now we have to put our new chip back on. And herein lies the problem. I'm going to see if you guys can see the problem. I'm just kind of bring this up here to you a little bit. So the problem we've run into is this chip, the legs, obviously on our original, the legs pointed down. Okay? They pointed down. And they were supposed to go through these through-hole vias. These legs lay flat, and they do not go through those through-hole vias. What can we do about that? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to apply some flux, okay, to the top side of the board first. We're going to fill these holes with solder. Now, with the particular soldering iron we have, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Okay, we're going to do the top side, and we're going to flip over, and we're going to apply a little bit more flux, and we're going to do the bottom side. Flow in these pads. With plenty of solder. Okay. And that should give us the ability up top to make a little solder ball stick up. Just a little bit of a solder ball to stick up. Now, we're going to take our component, our switch in this case, not that switch doesn't work. We're going to take this switch because he does work. We're going to get him pretty close to in place, okay? Put a little bit of flux down. Get our tweezers once I find them. we're going to get our switch as close to in place as we can get him. And we're going to start heating up the legs on opposite corners. And if you have the right switch and you do it just right, you can bridge your hole, your via, to your switch. Just like we did there. And then we're going to put a little bit of pressure down to make sure our switch is set all the way down. I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to grab the microscope and show you what we ended up with. Now, here's the thing, okay? I want you to remember this. First thing, you want a momentary switch if you have to do this. A momentary, okay? You don't want to push and hold. You want a momentary switch, okay? Now, the second thing is our original button did not have a clicky sound to it. This one is going to have a clicky sound, and there is nothing we can do about that because we don't have the original switch. This is what we have, okay? Will this work? Absolutely. It's going to work great. I've done several like this. They always work. They always work really well. That's why I recommend, you know what, before I do this, let me grab the microscope and show you guys what that should look like under the microscope. Okay, so here's our component under a microscope, and you can see where we flowed our legs. Let me grab my tweezers so I can point it out. Point of reference for me. Makes it a little bit easier for me to show you guys what's going on. You can see here's our via and here's our via. And we put our chip down, okay, and we flowed that leg. We used our soldering iron, like so, to heat that leg up, and we kind of gently pushed that way. Okay, and that allowed that solder to flow up there on the leg. We did all four of those, as well as the bottom side of the board. Let me fix my picture. Where we tinned these pads, which were the original pads on the bottom of the board. Now we have conductivity all the way through, and we're good to go. And that's how you do that, guy. So, let me clean this back up, clean the bottom of the board, set the microscope back over there. Clean the bottom of the board, clean the top of the board, clean the board, make it look nice. That's what we do. And then we're going to test our reset switch. And if our reset switch now works, then we are 100% repaired. And I guess that means that I will be feeling particularly happy because that will mean that I then get to go back to using actual tools that I'm comfortable and used to using instead of this stuff. I'll be honest, this soldering iron, listen, I'm not going to use the soldering iron very much, but in a pinch, it works. Alright, let's see here. So, we've got Sonic loaded up. There we go. Let him load a little bit further. Hit our reset button. The reset button works like a charm. I'm going to pivot our camera down here and show you that guy. Uh-oh. We have lost the lighting rig and the camera. So here's our reset button. Click. Click. There we go. She's working great. So we can turn him back off, and let me get my lighting rig set back up. Excuse the momentary blindness that you're going to get. Let's see. Got a little mini soft box that also holds my microphone on it, so you guys can hear me. And every single time that I tilt him down to get a better view of what's on my little screen, I end up knocking it over. I say every single time, nearly every time. I end up knocking him over, and then I have a mess. So, at this point, this board is now repaired. and ready to rock and roll, ready to be good for you to use for another 15, 20 years. All we did is replace a few caps, straighten a few things up, replace our switch so that he now works, and it's good to go. Now, reality-wise, you guys know me, and you've watched my channel, and you've seen the repairs and the restores that I do, and you know, as well as I know, I cannot leave this here. I have to replace all the rest of these capacitors. I have to. I have to because I'm going to end up selling this console, hopefully to one of you guys. And whoever gets it is going to expect this console to work great from now on. And I can't guarantee that if I don't replace all of these capacitors myself, if I don't make sure they're all good and they're all new, I can't guarantee that. So I'm going to go ahead and replace all the rest of these in a high-speed montage. I am not going to use this anymore. I have proved my point. I have proved my point, or mainly I'm just tired of using it. But I wanted to show you that it could be done, and that you don't need all the fancy tools and equipment. I wanted to show you that. I wanted you to see it. I wanted you to see some techniques to use and the patience involved if you're going to use parts or tools that are maybe not, you know, the best in the world. Maybe they're not, you know, the most expensive or the high end. I wanted you to see that you can do some of these repairs at home. There's a lot of them you're not going to be able to do at home. You can install components, you can remove components, you can do those things, and I wanted you to see that it could be done with just the basic tools that you're going to get right out of the box with stuff. We didn't use a desoldering gun, we didn't use desoldering flux, we didn't use braid, we didn't use flush cutters, we didn't use any of that stuff, okay? We just used a $15 Weller soldering iron. It's got LED lights. It's got to count for something, right? They're utterly useless, but it's got to count for something. We used cuticle remover clippers to clip our wires with. We used this, and it was working until it stopped working and broke, and so we used our hand pump. That's what we used. We did that to remove capacitors and to remove a switch, which is, I was actually surprised we got that out of there. To be perfectly honest, I was actually quite surprised. But we did, and we used basic, simple tools. And you guys can use those too. The trick is, take your time, be patient. Okay? Take your time, be patient. And examine the problem. Look at it head on. If you get aggravated, walk away. Come back when you're calm. Okay? Look at the problem and solve it. Find a way without destroying the board. If you guys notice, we didn't destroy the board. We didn't put any scratches. We didn't put any scuffs. We didn't break any traces. We didn't have to replace anything other than the components that we meant to take off. And if I can do it, you guys can do it too. And I wanted to show you that it could be done. Now, do I recommend it? No. I recommend getting the proper tools. But if it's your console at home, by all means, guys, by all means, if it's your console at home, it's yours, you can replace the capacitors. I'm happy to do it for you, but you can do it. And I wanted you to see that it's not that hard. It just takes a little time and patience. All right, so I'm going to pause this video right here. I'm going to go eat dinner, and then I'm going to come back and we'll high-speed changing all the rest of the capacitors and the 7805 out and all that good stuff. All right? Be right back. All right. We are done with that guy for now. It's time for us to get back into using proper tools and finish this build up real quick. So I'm going to set this aside, and we're going to go straight into high speed. Alright guys, welcome back. So, here's where we're at. We got everything, all the capacitors replaced. We replaced the 78S05. Sorry, let me turn this down a little bit. We replaced all that stuff, got everything good to go. Our board is fully operational, and we are now ready to reinstall the plastics. Apologize for the little bit of delay. I had a slight little mishap with the 7805 and a little clip. But we did finally get him all put in and squared away, so he's ready to rock and roll, and we're in great shape, okay? So I'll tell you what, let me go run and grab the plastics, and I'll be back here in just a minute, and we will wrap this up, all right? Okay, guys, I have waited long enough, and when I say waited long enough, mainly I got tired of waiting for this to dry. So we're gonna wipe it dry because I'm tired of waiting. We want to finish this. I want to finish this. So we're gonna start wiping down the insides of our Genesis, so we can finish this guy up and get him back running. Well, I say get him back running. Get him reassembled, I guess would be the better word, because he is running. He is operational. Why do you call them he's? I wonder. Maybe she. You think do you think they're some consoles are boys or girls, or I guess in the new age maybe binary something or the other, what is it? I'm not sure. Anyway, moving on from all of that minefield of questions there. So we're going to get him all dried up, and we're going to start reassembling him. This is just a simple matter of just wiping it down. After we've scrubbed it and scrubbed it and scrubbed it, I let this sit in the sink soaking literally all night long, just because of the amount of gunk inside of it. And sometimes I get asked, you know, on eBay or somewhere else, you know, some of the other sites, what do I use specifically to clean / disinfect? I use Dawn dish soap, and I use it in a pretty liberal amount. I will basically apply a big squirt to each major piece going in, and fill the sink up and let it sit, and then go from there. And that usually does a pretty good job. I also add about a half of a cup, or if you're in the South like me, a hefty dollop of hydrogen peroxide will also help clean things up, along with some hot water, and just let it soak for a little bit. It won't hurt a thing. Just let it soak. That's in pretty good shape. And then once I'm done, once I've let it soak for a while, I will go in with a fairly soft bristled brush. I don't remember what pack I got the brush in, but one of these days it's going to finish wearing out, and I'm going to be in trouble because I really like that brush. It's got bristles. It's like a really wide, flat toothbrush, but it's got bristles kind of on the nose of it too, so you can kind of get in between places. I really like it. It does a really good job. I wish I could tell you where I got it or how I acquired it and all the other stuff, but I couldn't tell you if I wanted to, because I can't remember how I came across it. Nevertheless, like I said though, I do genuinely love that brush. It does an amazing job. Really gets the console clean, which is what you want. That's what you're after, to really get the console nice and clean. We'll switch our tip out back to our, you just wait, I'll find it. This is what inevitably almost always happens to my work area. I will randomly lose all of my bits, and then somehow miraculously find them all and go, how did those end up there? I've searched this desk 57 times and couldn't find them. I don't know how that happens, but it does. We're going to have to remember, we're going to have to mod our case. I'll show you how we're going to do that here in just a minute. We're going to have to mod our case because we switched our switch over. We switched our switch. So I want to talk about the channel for a minute. So I've gotten the Jaguar videos. I've gotten a crazy amount of views on the past couple of days. Very excited, very happy with that. And added quite a few subscribers. I'm not a huge channel. Maybe one day I'll be a Linus Tech Tips or a Voltar or a Lazy Game Reviews or something like that. Maybe one day I will be. I'm not now. We're working on it. We'll get there maybe. Maybe one of these days we'll get there. I'm not there. But I have seen a huge spike in views, especially on that particular one. Perhaps it was just content that people really liked and really wanted to see. Perhaps I got lucky with the Google gods and they just happened to recommend my video. Maybe I hit that rare assortment of search terms that just returned a bunch of views. I'm not sure, but I'm very appreciative for all the people who have watched and enjoyed it. And as I tell everybody in all my videos, you guys go like and subscribe. Comment. Tell me what console you want me to build. Tell me what you want to see. Tell me what you're working on. Tell me what stumped you. Tell me, tell me how I can help you. Maybe I can offer you some guidance on your build that you're working on. Or maybe you've always wanted to see a console, or maybe you're stumped on a console and you don't quite know what to do with it or how to fix it. Listen, shoot me a message. Let me know what you're working on, and or what you want to see, and I'll be happy, more than happy, to oh no, we've done it. We've really done it this time. I thought something was odd. We forgot a piece. I hate it when I do that. I'm usually pretty fastidious about not leaving any pieces out and making sure that I'm in order, but I got talking about something else and distracted, and apparently I just forgot. Shame on me. The worst part is my electric screwdriver is over there charging right now, so this is all the good old-fashioned manual removal. But at any rate, yeah, you guys, listen, don't get me wrong. I really appreciate all the views, and I appreciate that you guys are coming over and wanting to talk or wanting to watch, and I'm really glad you like the videos and are watching them. It's great. But feel free to drop me a comment, man. Tell me, like I said, tell me what you want to see. You want to see an old Magnavox Odyssey? You want to see, whatever it is. I'm game for anything, I'd never fixed an Atari 2600 until I fixed an Atari 2600. There's always a console, it doesn't matter what it is. There's always going to be at least one console somewhere that I haven't worked on, haven't touched, haven't seen, don't know anything about. And I'll be more than happy to get in there, and work on it. I'm always bidding on, I'm always trying to get game lots, console lots, broken lots, whether it's eBay or wherever else. I'm always trying to get those. And I try to get those for a lot of reasons. Price is kind of irrelevant to me. And I say that, not that I'm wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, But, you know, if I see a good deal, you know, if it's, you know, I don't know, 30 Super Nintendos, you know, for you know, $600, you know, whatever. You know, I do the cost analysis in my head of what I know I can sell them for, of what I know they're worth, and then you know that determines whether or not I buy it. And if it's got a bunch of Segas in it, which this particular lot was all Segas, but I got a great price on them, then that's what I'm going to build. If I get a bunch of you ever have a feeling you're missing a screw? We are, but I don't know where he went. That's troubling. So, I guess we're going to take them back apart again and locate our missing screw. Sorry. You know, I got a really good price on these Segas, so it's what I bought. But I don't care if it's a bunch of NESs or Super NES. Actually, I do care if it's Super Nintendos. Let me tell you, I love Super Nintendos. I do. I adore them. Here is my problem with Super Nintendo. Found the missing screw. It was all the way over here hiding. So if you spotted that, you know, thanks for the heads up. At any rate, you know, Super Nintendos I love. I do. I have in my personal collection SNES one chip, and I've got a Famicom as well, Super Famicom. Love them, adore them, love them. Do not play them much, and I'll tell you why. Because along with my collection, my repair rate for Super Nintendos, for buying a damaged Super Nintendo and fixing it up, the repair rate is astronomically low. Maybe I'm just bad at them. Maybe the gods of the internet are wrong. But you know what fails on those are the processors, the main chips. You can't get them, and they fail frequently. It's not like it's an extremely common occurrence. I bought not too long ago. I got what I thought was a really good deal on. I don't know. I think it was 5 or 6 Super Nintendos. The water that you're seeing is just where I dumped the lid out right here. I bought 5 or 6 Super Nintendos. Got what I really thought was a good deal on them, and it was. You know, for a bunch of non-working Super Nintendos. Of the lot, I think there were 6 in the lot. Of the lot, I got maybe 2 working. The rest of them had RAM failures, had main processor failures, just massive problems, uncorrectable problems, all over them. I stole chips out of this one to make that one work, and robbed Peter and pay Paul and the whole 9 yards to get a couple working, and that seems to be anymore, especially anymore, par for the course when it comes to Super Nintendos. And I hate it because that means they're dying off. Now will they die off in my lifetime? I don't know. They might. I hope not. They might. But I don't think they will. I don't think there's going to be a global shortage of Super Nintendos. Here's the thing, though. At the failure rate of a Super Nintendo, it does not make sense financially for me to buy a bunch of them because that was the wrong button. Sorry, I'm trying to correct my chair. What I did is hit the wrong button. I don't know how this thing works. There we go. There we go. That's better. Okay. Sorry. At the failure rate of the Super Nintendos, they just don't make good, solid financial sense for me to spend a lot of time working on them or buy a bunch of them, because first off, they don't go for a whole lot of, they don't sell for a whole lot of money. And Genesis is, you guys have heard me say this, don't either. Something I don't fully understand, but they don't. Genesis typically don't go for a lot of money either. The big giant difference is, right, that there is rarely anything quote unquote unfixable on a Genesis. The processors don't fail. They just don't. Unless they've got liquid damage, they work. And a lot of times, even with liquid damage, you let them dry out, you treat them right, hit them with some isopropyl, reflow the chip. I've literally gotten one. I bought a lot of various consoles and had 9 Sega Genesises in it. And I'm going to tell you, the amount of rust that was inside of these things. I mean, rust on the board to where I was literally sanding solder mask away, sanding, not rubbing, sanding it away, and sanding rust off of copper, where the rust had bled off of the metal casing onto the solder, and just left rust stains all over it. I was sanding it off, and I thought, man, there's no way. Every single one of them worked. Some of them took a little bit of effort to get working. Some of them required me pulling the chips, and some of them required me repairing a lot of traces that were otherwise ruined. But every one of those consoles worked, and worked reliably. Some of them I had to throw the metals away because they were so rusted. There was no fixing it. There was no cleaning them. There was nothing you could do. But every single one of them worked. And again, I'm not talking about a little bit of rust here or there. I'm not talking about a spot like you'll see sometimes. I'm talking about rusted through in parts of it. And every one of them worked. And Super Nintendos, unfortunately, and I do mean that, what you have is you have what I call a catastrophic failure on a Super Nintendo. They can't be fixed. And when I say they can't be fixed, let me reiterate on that. They can be fixed. What it requires is a donor, right? It requires a donor board. It requires a donor unit that you can pull the processor or the RAM or the graphics chip off of. It requires something like that in order to get them working. And so, for that reason and that reason alone, I have all but stopped working on Super Nintendos. I love them. If you have a working one and you want it modded or something like that, hey, hit me up. If you've got one and you want to see me do one on the channel and it doesn't work, hey, send it to me. I mean, I'll just to work on one on the channel one day. I'll give you a fair price for it. Whether it works or not, maybe we'll steal enough parts off of the donor boards that I've got sitting over here to make it work. We'll try that. If that's something you guys want to see, we'll do it. At any rate, but I don't really work on those much anymore. I tend to steer clear of those. NESs, and a lot of people complain about the toaster NES, the front loader, not the top loader, the front loader being unreliable. Man, I'm going to tell you, other than the cartridge port, those things are tanks. I mean, they are tanks. I have yet to come across one NES that could not be repaired. And when I say could not be repaired, I've got the board sitting over here. No, I threw the board away. Stand corrected. Threw the board away. And I threw the board away because I did keep the case, though. And the case I actually put on another NES because the case was beautiful. The shell was beautiful. One of the most pristine outer shells I've ever seen. But when I opened it up, there was so much rust and so much corrosion that it had literally eaten away at the board. There were holes in the board, literally holes in the board. It was obscene. So but other than that, I've never seen one not work. Okay. So the problem that we have to address is we replaced our reset switch. Now, if we put this in here, okay, and we put our reset button in, okay, and we push it down, that one clicks. So we set him high enough to work, to function. Here's what I'll tell you. Some of these, like if you remember in this video, and this, I chose the black, the taller black one. If you have the thinner red switch or something like that you're replacing that with, and you can't get it to click, what you have to do, and I thought I might have to on this one, but looks like we got close enough to our height, is you take a M3, okay, a metric 3 by 2 or by 3 or by 4 screw, and you thread it into the reset button here, okay. This pin right here on the reset, okay, you can thread a screw into that however long you need to and leave him sticking out enough to make that gap up, and it'll work like a charm. This one we're not going to have to do that too, because apparently I'm not a huge fan of the click 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 to reset. I'm really not. However, we're going to have to learn to love that, because the original switch was so damaged there was no repairing it. So we're going to have to learn to love that switch. If I ever find, and I've checked Console 5, I've checked everywhere, the only way that I know to get a hold of the original switches again is through a donor board. But going back to my previous conversations, Genesis size. I'm going to learn how to say that one day. They don't have a high failure rate. They don't have a high rate of unable to be repaired. The capacitors will fail, and it'll eat away at traces of the board, but the traces are so clearly and cleanly laid out, they're incredibly easy to repair. So you don't run across a lot of donor boards, because almost anything you put your hands on you can fix. Now, the problem, the inherent flaw there is that whatever, the value of them is just not very high. The value of a Genesis is just not very high, and the ones that everybody wants, the very first gen with the high definition graphics up here, those tend to be the most valuable and the most highest priced ones that you're going to run across. However, barring that, I mean, you're looking at a $60 console. You're looking at $60. So here's what I want you to think about. Okay, for me, if I buy a broken Genesis for $30, and then by the time I pay for shipping, $10, that's $40, and then I get it to the house, tear into it, spend an hour or two fixing the thing. Okay, never mind me making a video of it. I spent an hour or two fixing it, replacing all the capacitors and replacing the 7805. All the capacitors, maybe $4, maybe $5 worth of capacitors. 7805, maybe $1. Swap the LED light in it. Just little stuff like that. By the time I'm all said and done, not including my personal time, not including the equipment, not including the solder, not including the flux or the isopropyl or anything else. We're talking about just hard parts, just the Genesis itself and the capacitors and the physical items it took to repair it. You're looking at, I've got $50 in one. Okay? Now, I turn around and I've spent I spent an hour, 2, maybe 3 hours, maybe 4 hours fixing it. I turn around and sell it to you for $60, right? I've lost money on this deal, right? Which is why I buy these in a lot, right? A console lot, broken console lot, because I can get them for a better price. Now, you contrast that with a Super Nintendo, which does sell for a little bit more, which does, but sorry, I'm looking on the floor for my Sega power pack there. Contrast that with the Super Nintendo, that I buy for $50, $70, not working, what have you, and I spend 2 hours fixing, 3 hours fixing, replacing capacitors, working on the board, and I can't get it to work, and I fight with it, and I never do get it right. There's just no money to be made there, which is why I don't do them a lot. One of my favorite consoles to work on, one of my absolute favorites, is one that you're going to see a video on pretty soon, but I don't work on them much, and that's the Xbox 360 Fats. It's one of the consoles I kind of cut my teeth working on, and I made a great, and I love it, and I say great. It's to me it looks amazing, and I love it. But anybody else will look at it and go, it's the case is cracked here and things like that. But my original Xbox 360, I painted it up and cut windows in it and RGH'd it and the whole 9 yards. And I love that console, but I won't work on it much because the value has now gone to the point that either they're broken and unrepairable because they're Red Ring of Death, or they are working. They're Jaspers, they're big block Jaspers, and people want $150 for them. I love working on them for my own collection. I would buy them, but for no other reason would I buy one, because there's nothing in it for me. There's no money to be made there. There's nothing for me in that, other than to add to my collection, And I've got a pretty ridiculous collection as it is, and not to be ugly, but or rude, or to be a braggart or anything like that. But the last thing I need is another Xbox 360. So I can't sell them because I can't make any money off of them. So I just don't get into them, even though I do really love working on them. I think some of the mods you can do to them are amazing and fantastic and great, but I don't really work on them much. However, kind of bringing that home for a minute, my son, who is coming to spend the summer with me, I talked to him the other day, and I said, listen, this summer, kind of for our project, do you want to build a game console with me? Oh, yeah, that's a great idea, he said. I said, well, what do you want to build? I don't know, I'll think about it. And he came back with he wanted to build an Xbox Series X. So that wasn't happening. Because I'm not sacrificing my Xbox Series X to modify, and there's nothing wrong with it. The thing works great, and I'm also not going to spend that kind of money, just to tear into it, and put lights and windows in it. They're too new, they're too hard to get. I'm not going to do that. Having said that, I said, well, we're probably not going to do that. We're probably not going to get one of those. What else would you like? And he said he wanted an Xbox. He wanted to do a Xbox 360 with all the mods like mine. And so I said, sure, no problem. I've got a couple of them already sitting on the shelf that I just haven't touched in a while. So we're going to pick probably one of those out and do a full build-up video on one of those. So you guys can look forward to that coming later this summer. I don't know when that's going to be off the top of my head. He's obviously got to wrap up school back home, and then we got to work out a time for him to come down and, you know, all that stuff, you know. But when he does, we're going to build that video together. We'll do it right here on this channel and make it a full, probably a 3-part episode of all the stuff, you know, loading all the games on it and everything. We'll probably end up RGHing it and, you know, doing LED mods and windows and, you know, all sorts of cool stuff. But never mind all that. Just remember that video, that series is coming later on this summer. But for now, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this console. So just kind of rehashing this one. This is, again, bought it in a job lot. Good little console. The seller on eBay said not working. This console doesn't work. Other than being filthy when we took it out of the box and unwrapped it, other than being absolutely filthy, we plugged it. We opened the case up and we found. I assume it was maybe a rat's nest or a mouse nest or something like that inside of it. Cleaned that up, cleaned all the stuff off of isopropyled the board, brushed it, cleaned it up real well, and got all the junk out of that cartridge connector. If you guys remember us pulling that out, and the thing fired right up and ran perfect. And I say perfect. We had a couple graphic glitches on there that were just some bad capacitors or capacitors getting ready to completely fail. So we replaced all of the capacitors. The idea behind this video was to do all of this work with the basic tools that you guys might have at home and show you how you can do that and give you some tips and tricks. So we did the first part of it with that to show you how to do it, and then we wrapped it all up. We finished cleaning it up, put it back together, and here she is. She's ready to rock and roll. I hope you guys learned something from this. I hope it was an educational video for you. I hope that you feel, I guess, like you can take on some of these repairs, because you can. If I ever come across a repair that I would caution you against, don't worry, I'll tell you. But replacing capacitors on a board, guys, you can do it. You can do that. I mean, I'm happy to do it for you, but you can do it. You don't have to have thousands of dollars worth of equipment to do it. You can, and I hope this video showed you how and helped you and gave you some pointers and some tips and tricks. Guys, if you like this video, hit that like button. Remember to subscribe, hit the bell icon for more videos like this, and we will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.